I woke up to the sound of rattling downstairs. The clock on my nightstand read 3:34 a.m. I was 17 at the time, lying in my pitch-black bedroom, heart pounding with fear. Trying to stay quiet, I tiptoed to my parents' room, but to my surprise, it was empty. Where could my parents be at 3:34 in the morning? Feeling uneasy, I headed upstairs to check on my brother. He was usually awake all night, but when I reached his room, the light was on, yet he was nowhere to be found. The unsettling noises downstairs must have been them, right? But why were they awake so late? Did something happen to someone? I cautiously made my way downstairs, only to find two men in the middle of our living room, seemingly in the act of stealing our TV. Panic surged through me as I realized I was alone. I turned and fled back upstairs as quietly as I could, shut myself in my bedroom, and locked the door. Suddenly, loud banging erupted on the other side of the door. Then, I woke up, relief washing over me as I realized it was just a dream. But when I glanced at the clock, a chill ran down my spine. It was 3:34 a.m. again, just like in the dream. Shaking with fear, I decided to go downstairs, hoping to reassure myself that everything was fine. As I descended, dread filled me when I saw the two men in the kitchen, this time screaming at my parents and brother. I bolted back upstairs, locked myself in my bedroom, and braced for what felt inevitable. 10 seconds later, the banging on my door began again. And then, I woke up, for real this time. The clock still read 3:34 a.m. This time, I was truly awake, and I couldn't fall back asleep for the next 36 hours. When I was a child, I lived in an old Victorian house with my single mother. As an only child, my nights were often quiet, except for the unsettling laughter I would hear when I was trying to sleep. I was around 5 or 6 years old when I first began waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of laughter echoing in the hallway. When I told my mom about it, she assured me it was probably just the TV being left on late. But one night, the laughter wasn't just in the hallway, it was in my room. I woke up and tried to sit up, but I couldn't move. It felt like invisible hands were pinning me down, gripping my shoulders tightly while the laughter filled the room. I was terrified and screamed as loud as I could. My mom rushed into my room, flicking on the bedside lamp. She tried to convince me that it was just a bad dream. But when I told her my shoulders hurt, she grew concerned. She lifted my t-shirt and found 2 adult-sized handprints on my shoulders. For years, I thought maybe I had imagined the whole thing. But just the other day, I casually mentioned it to my mom. She went pale and quietly said, "I don't want to remember that." It's not something I talk about often, but when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I experienced something that still gives me chills. One night, I woke up to a banging on my window. At first, I tried to brush it off as just the wind, hoping to fall back asleep. But then I started hearing footsteps in my room. My bedroom was large enough for someone to walk in circles in front of my bed, and that's exactly what it sounded like, someone pacing around in the dark. I tried to convince myself that it was just the house settling, but the sound of those footsteps made my heart race. To make things worse, I used to sleep with the radio on, and at that very moment, it was playing a hauntingly depressing song. I can't remember the name of the song, but even now, whenever I hear it, I still get the creeps. As I lay there, frozen with fear, I noticed that the room was getting colder and colder. I was terrified. I decided to make a run for it, bolting down the hall to my parents' room. But as I passed through the spot where I heard the footsteps, the air turned so icy that I could see my breath. For a split second, I was paralyzed by the cold, and that's when I heard it, a voice, barely more than a whisper, saying, "I'm lost." I didn't wait another second. I sprinted to my parents' room, dove under their bed, and cried myself to sleep, desperately trying to escape the fear that gripped me.